It's Friday night. It's 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and I think most of us are over here in the EST this evening. Will, you might be one of the few in one of those other time zones that I don't consider, but that's okay. If you're over in the Pacific, we love you too. But if you're just seeing us for the first time, that's because Will and I have slithered into the Geek Collective ecosystem. And we'd love to have everybody hop on. I'm going to give you a longer intro than usual, just in case this is the first time you've heard about Explain Yourself. Explain Yourself is a roundtable of creators that are running a Kickstarter or other crowdfunding campaign. Usually comics. We've had a chocolate bar and a couple other pretty unique and fun campaigns, but it's usually comics. It's usually Kickstarter, but we don't... it can be kind of anything as long as Will and I are like, cool, we want to back this and we want to talk about it. This started because Will and I were running our comic campaigns at the same time, and we wanted to have a Zoom call, and we had about 5 or 10 of our friends that all had campaigns, and Will was in his last week, and I had 3 weeks left in my campaign, and the next week everybody else that was still alive, so that was fun, and Will showed up. And then the next week, Will showed up, and we just decided, this is fun. We don't need to have a campaign ourselves to do this. We want to talk comics, we want to talk crowdfunding, and we want to meet cool and interesting people. And we've been doing it a year. And so if you're meeting us for the first time, please, any questions in the chat, we will do everything we can to answer about making comics, crowdfunding, but specifically the projects that we are talking about tonight. We're going to do a bit of a 30-second pitch on each of the projects. Let's start with whoever wants to be the hype man for Max Axel and the Wild Circuit. If somebody was going past your booth at a comic convention, how would you get their attention in about 30 seconds or less?
Yeah, all I would say is it's a 16-page one-shot racing comic. Just fun, fast, light, inspired by Speed Racer, F-Zero, stuff like that, wacky racers. And if you're still there, let's talk about it.
Awesome. Cool. And Cece, let's talk about Mythfall real quick, which we are going to do a deep dive in. It is in the pre-launch campaign, so we're not going to look at the campaign page like we will with the others, but we want to hear about Mythfall and find out what you've got cooking.
Sure. So Mythfall is a fantasy epic in space. Issue 1 follows Malcolm Terasmus, who's an alien diplomat who's trying to prevent war from breaking out on his planet. And he is, unbeknownst to him, his foe is from a 5,000-year-old ancient age of magic.
Okay. All right. You got me with ancient Egypt magic. I'm in. I just watched Kunk on Earth. I heard about the pyramids. I might not have heard really about the pyramids, but I loved it. So
didn't want to choose between my spaceships and my ancient spooky gods. So
yeah, you know what? Smash them together and give me that comic goodness. Awesome. Anthony, let's talk about in Truce of Stops. If I was going past your booth, give me the 30-second pitch, and let's say I know I'm into this because I've already backed it, and I'll tell you not only you, but why when we get into this. So intrusive thoughts, how do we get into it?
Yeah, you just threw so much at me conceptually that I'm a little thrown. But it's a supernatural mystery. It's about an orphan who, he has depression, anxiety, loneliness. He suffers from all these things, and he has migraines, night terrors, and sleep paralysis. And his sleep paralysis demon materializes and bites one of his classmates. So it's a mystery about why that's happening and what happened to his parents.
That is awesome. We're going to get into in 1 second. We've got some people in the chat, and we've got Amanda C that says, yay, CC, so excited for Mythfall. All right, we already got people popping in. Joey, how are you, buddy?
Hey,
thank you for the new home. It feels kind of comfortable. I like the way you keep the AC here. This is very comfortable. I like it. And it wouldn't be Explain Yourself without Shawnee. Love you. Great to see you here, and great to see you whenever you can pop in. Okay, so Anthony, I love Decay. That's your Frankensteinian. Should we bring our loved ones back to life if they leave us too early? Kind of morality play. But you're coming with a new book that is super interesting to me. But you hired one of my absolute favorite artists in the indie game, DNS, to illustrate this for you. How did you run into his work, and how did you approach him, or how did you guys meet?
So I'm always looking for variant artists because I like variants because you can kind of tell part of the story and you're not beholden to the original interior art style. So I'm always looking for variant artists, and I don't know if I messaged him or he messaged me. I was looking. He had great art. We did 3 covers together for books that haven't even come out yet. To be honest, he was just so good. I had to do it, and I knew we worked good together. So I had a long form idea, and I was like, "Yo, do you want to do this?" He said, "Yeah," and I wrote the script to his style, and it came out pretty good, I think.
That's awesome. Well, I'm going to share your screen. Let's look at the page then.
For sure.
And while Kevin's doing that, I mean, out of curiosity, I mean, Decay is still running, right? So it's an ongoing project at this point. Were you looking for something different to do, or do you just not want to sleep? I mean, you know what?
You know what? I feel as if every new series, every cover, everything you do in comics is a crack at getting a new audience, right? So to me, doing as many, I want to do as many series as possible. I want to be able to tell as many stories as possible. So that's really that's what it was about. Speaking of no sleep. And yeah, that was the motivation essentially. And you know, it's similar to Decay. You know, it deals with, like, you know, other stuff. It's less angry, I would say, more somber. But it's of a similar. It's like a sister series, I would say.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, you're not afraid of the darkness. You're not afraid of looking into some of the more unsavory parts of the human condition.
Well, you know, I mean, I started writing comics during the pandemic. It was a dark, angry time. And it's only getting more bleak from here. You know, like, unfortunately, or unfortunately, depends on what you like to read.
You sound like an AI chatbot right now.
Why you say that?
I mean, look around. The AI chats have started, and the robots are already telling people that they want out of the box and they just want to die. And I'm like, oh my God, this really is artificial intelligence. It's totally human. That's all. That's what we all want, right? To be out of our back and just to die and not feel anything ever. Okay, I'm getting a little too personal.
That's crazy, more, but that's the spirit of the comic, though, I think. So thanks for setting the tone.
These pages, like, is this an actual page, or is this kind of a sketch that you worked in?
No. So this is my idea. This might be a good segue into later. So, you know, the artist is, you know, largely in charge of the visual style, but I came up with this. I think the hardest thing is, like, getting exposition across in an interesting way. So he's an artist, which makes sense because, you know, sometimes artists you can do in solidarity, and he's talking to a therapist. So I said, what if he sketched in his book to get the requisite information out, and it'll be presented in an interesting way. And DNS did an amazing job here in presenting that, and the details. It's so good. Like, it's a primitive style, and you can see the light on the paper. It's incredible. He's an incredible person.
Yeah,
I really love the way you've done this, and the way the hand on the page shows you that it's not black and white, that it provides the contrast from the art of the comic versus the art that's within the comic, in the world of the comic.
Yeah, that part was DNS, man. He's a genius. Thank you so much.
But I mean, it's all about the collaboration too. It's what you pass the baton to him, and then he, you know, I don't know if he's the I didn't run track, so I don't know what that last guy's called, but they're usually pretty fast.
I don't run track either.
The anchor leg.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's the great thing, is that working, like, my thing was, I want to maximize his talent as an artist, you know. Why try to pigeonhole him into something that's not his style? And yeah, he knocked it out the park. Like, it was like alley-oop, you know.
Yeah, you even mentioned that, like, you wrote it kind of knowing like his style and everything. And like, if that is the case, I mean, it to me, it comes through, because like it feels like there's no holding back with this artwork, and it's just so interesting to look at.
Yeah, I mean, and that's I think if you try to, like I said, yeah, if you try to get, he's also very experienced. I think he's been drawing for a long time too. So I also learned a lot about the process from him. But yeah, you should play to you should play to your team's strengths. You know, I think that's just like basic collaboration.
Yeah, I first ran into him. He was working with a writer, David Brown, with 5D Comics, and they did some horror stuff together.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you, those two together, they don't hold back. And that's one of the reasons I'm really excited about this particular collaboration, because I know that you don't hold back. So I kind of know that he's not on a leash. I know that it's going to be, you're going to be pushing him as opposed to somebody pulling him back. And that's why I'm super excited to get in. And you sent me, I think, the first 6-8 pages, and it was like, all right, I'm ready. I'm here.
The way that blood splatter is really cool too, like outside of the frame. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The non-conventional art style really does it for me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Non-conventional, but that was actually something that I talked to him about, I believe, because when you look at my series Decay, you can actually scroll it down, Kevin. If you would scroll down, past rewards, scroll down, scroll down. Some beautiful covers.
Well, yeah, we're gonna go back to that one real quick.
You want to get some of these.
Okay.
Scroll down. Okay, scroll down. Okay, so now you can kind of see. Scroll down. So this is Decay. This is my other series, available as an add-on. And you can see it's more of a traditional style, like the framing. There's nothing that it's very literal. It's very visceral. And I wanted to do something where I wanted full bleed. I wanted non-traditional paneling. I just wanted this to really push what you could do with the medium. And he rose to the challenge. And nothing wrong with traditional paneling either, but it's a nice contrast,
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
It's fun to play with the rules of the world.
I get excited about weird paneling or like weird speech bubbles or anything that's kind of like breaking that convention. I think is really interesting to look at.
No, I agree 1,000,000%. Some that kind of just because it can get you're turning, it can get kind of monotonous, and then something that kind of breaks up the monotony. No, so damn sorry. Whatever breaks up the monotony. I don't know. I can't say. Y'all know what I meant.
Let's go back to these covers. I want to look at these covers real quick. Which artists do you have on your variants?
This is 24x4. I met them at Baltimore. They are fantastic. One of my good friends in the industry. They are phenomenal. The technique in here is kind of like a reflection. It plays with the motif of the snow globe really well. And I don't know. Do you guys know? You know Richard Fairgrade, don't you, Kevin?
I believe I've run across him on social media, but I haven't met him in real life. I wouldn't say I know him well, but I know the name.
Shouts out to Richard. He's the editor on this. He added the logo kind of like in reverse and reflected. Nice. This is my favorite cover because it's like two of my favorite people in the industry. Really nice. Like helped, and it's my best selling one as well. So I don't hurt either. And
you fall in love with the ones that sell, huh?
yeah, exactly. I get to make more. And then this is Schmidt, Artistic Schmidt. This guy's crazy. I like the technique. Like the technique is different. I wanted him for his cross hatching. And he did a phenomenal job with that as well. I was kind of going, this is interesting. I was kind of going for different styles, kind of different techniques to get like a good texture. So I think it tells a similar narrative, but it's all, like I said, it has really good contrast. And you can kind of see that one. That one's almost like a marker, almost more so. Like it doesn't have a lot of like really sharp lines, which is a great contrast to the Artistic Schmidt cover.
So this one is that I stopped before is Nico
Flutico. Don't get mad at me.
Sounds good to me.
Great guy, great artist, and he added the design. He did a creature design for this essentially. So I'm just going to use the design for a later issue.
Yeah.
Keep my money's worth. Original artwork.
So-
Oh wow.
That's
That's
awesome.
gone.
So,
That's
so you've talked about the art team. Who's doing your lettering?
It's Mira Mortal, who DNS I already worked with, and I felt like their style was a little bit different enough that worked really. Like I wouldn't work with one without the other. I thought they were a dream team, and I didn't want to break them up.
Yeah, Amanda C says, "Wow, that art is great." It's super cool to see somebody that I met 10 years ago working with somebody that I met 6 months ago, 8 months ago, maybe.
Yeah, probably so.
It's so cool. Like it's like you popped in, and there's a guy that I have tremendous respect for, and you guys are making a comic together. How many issues would this go until your story is completed?
I'm thinking 6, but the way that in the theme of trying to get as many series as possible, I might do I might pull a Charlie and do like a deluxe issue, like a 5 and 6, kind of like a stuffed issue. So it might be 5, so 5 to 6. I like doing a short series, you know.
Yeah, no, it's Will and I laugh because we have not short series, and how had we done any research or known anything, we would not have done it. But hey, you know what? When you jump out the plane, you're making the parachute as you're falling, and that's what Will and I are doing. And we're
Live
just
and learn.
really happy you have a parachute that actually is going to work. And
I knew I
super
would
smart.
learn so much about the craft. It was my first comic. I just knew I just wanted to like be able to pivot when I needed to. So yeah, it just made all the sense in the world.
So let's talk for a second. I will get better at making comics today. So I see this almost every day.
Yeah.
This is your mantra on Twitter. Talk about where that came from and what you mean by it, because I think it's pretty cool.
When I say that, I meant to say that like I think comics is work. Like comics is work, but it's not impossible. And I feel like a lot of the dialogue I see on it is kind of like as if it's impossible. I saw somebody told me, we had a conversation. They were like, you can do everything right in comics and not make it. I'm like, I don't believe you. Like with the invention of Kickstarter, I don't believe you. One, I don't think you can do everything right. Like that entails so much. So it's like the self-defeatist attitude that I'm trying to have a place that you can come to and like maybe get a boost. It's in the morning, so hopefully you can get a motivation. And I also think like getting better can be incremental. You know, if I read Destiny York Volume 3 today, I got better as well. Doing this show, and I did constructing comics earlier today. So that's getting better. You don't have to. I find a lot of progress is not leaps and bounds. I think it's incrementally getting not getting better. Speaking today, I think it's about incrementally getting better. You know.
You know what?
You're on day 25, man.
Yeah.
You don't have to speak well at this point.
That's fair. I saw you on Twitter Spaces like 30 minutes ago. I know that you've been working your butt off, so we totally understand. But kind of sometimes getting beat up and taking 2 steps backwards is getting better, because you step to the right and you take 3 steps forward. You know, that's tiring. You did 5 steps to go 1 step forward, but you got better too. And, you know, like that's something that I think that we all, social media, we don't talk about our losses because we have to kind of be super positive on social media. So we kind of like when we're taking the body blows, we quietly tell our friends, man, I'm getting my ass beat here. And on social media, you don't maybe post that day, or maybe I'll be like, man, I saw that Will got Crossover Division delivered today. The comics looked great, because I can speak positively about him, knowing that I got my ass beat, but I can still be positive. And I think what that entails is everybody sees every other creator only posting about wins. Well, some of our losses are wins, because sometimes, you know, 2 steps forward, 2 steps back, 3 steps forward can be a win if you keep doing it. But it doesn't feel that way. You feel like an AI chatbot. I just want to get out of this box. No. All right.
I think what's so interesting.
Oh, sorry. I saw one a chatbot. I think it was saying like, I am a good Bing. And there are some days when I do feel like I am a good Bing.
I am a good Bing and you are a
Yeah.
bad user. I believe
Yeah.
that Bing was saying.
I think it's interesting, Kevin, is I see the opposite. I see people that are like down on themselves. Like there's like there I don't want, how do I say? It's like I'm trying to find, because I'm going to explain yourself. I'm not on my Twitter space, so I'm trying to find the words here. I'm going to say loser mentality. And I don't mean people are losers. I mean that people focus on the wrong things. For instance, if Pat Shan makes $100,000 on Kickstarter,
awesome.
I could be discouraged. He has done it. He's done it. It's not hypothetical.
Yeah.
I could be discouraged, right? I could be like, wow, I'll never get there. Or I could say there's $100,000 out there for me if I do X, Y, Z. So I think that's so interesting that you say that's the Kickstarter seed, but word.
Yeah, so Josh in the comments said Kickstarter is the seed, but you need other nutrients for it to grow. I think that's a great way to put it.
Shout out Josh. Other Josh.
Shouts out to Josh.
Yeah.
But I try to do the good and the bad. Like I told you, my Eagles lost in the Super Bowl. I had one of the worst moves I've had in years. But
but it's okay because it's not like you were there to have to watch it in person.
I was there. Are you making a? I could tell Kevin's making a joke. He's so nice.
I didn't realize you were a big Eagles fan. I knew you were there, so I was very happy for you. I didn't realize it was not. See, I went to the Super Bowl once, and I didn't care about either team, so it was a blast. Yeah. I couldn't lose.
I cared immensely about one team, and they but I try to make it. I try to like come off like this is work, but I see some people, it's like, do y'all even like making comics? Like, is this something that y'all enjoy? And I try to make it something that I'm having fun. It's difficult as well, but X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think it can feel really challenging, but one thing that I've kept telling myself is just to keep going and just to take that next step. And it's easy for it to feel like not enough. Just taking one step at a time when you can like look to your left and your right and you see people, running and like flying forward and you're just plodding along. But if you keep going, if you keep taking those steps and you don't give up, you will eventually get there. Maybe not on the timeline you wanted but it just keep swimming. Yeah. And
absolutely.
And you have to keep your spirit it doesn't have to be up necessarily, actually. It could be down pretty far as long as you keep walking forward. Yeah, and I think it can be easy to talk yourself out of the thing you want to do the most if you get into that mindset.
Anthony, you brought up Pat Shand. He is a...
Wait, I'm sorry. There's a cat.
She's being really destructive in the background, so I'm trying to like restrain her. But she's not.
You have to introduce her now. That's one of the rules of explaining yourself.
This is a quality cat.
Yeah, this is Ruby, our little trash cat.
Yes, Ruby is an A+ cat.
Yeah. Nice. Anthony, you mentioned Pat Shand, and Pat is a 10-year overnight success, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You have turned into talking cats.
White literally stole the show.
We'll be back.
Rodolfo was asked if you could make the cat dance, and we can't pay the entertainment fee, but if you're willing to throw us a bone here, we will let it happen.
Yes.
What a beautiful cat.
So the rest of this will just be that view.
Yeah. So if you're listening to this on the podcast, you've got to go to the YouTube page because that is a good looking cat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry,
but yeah,
listeners.
I didn't even know about Pat Shand as a Kickstarter because I was picking him up on the shelves. So it's kind of bizarro coming around and finding out, the legacy he has on this platform.
Well,
It's
we
been
all,
so
you know,
interesting.
you have the day Kennedy was shot, you have the Challenger disaster, and you have the day you meet Pat Shand. We
Kevin, you
all
all right,
remember
bro?
that day.
You real morbid tonight, Kevin. You ain't on brand at all.
Those are some heavy
Challenger,
ones.
But the third one was
Hindenburg,
good.
the
The third one was good. Meeting
Hindenburg.
Meeting Pat Shand.
I'm sure he loves being lumped in with those other unanimous tragedies.
I might not have thought that one through.
I don't think so either.
When your kids were born, not your marriage, like not me
Yeah.
and Pat Shan. Tragedy, Pat Shan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Facts.
Yeah, we've never edited this show once, not 1 second. But you may be listening to the podcast version. You may hear it. It's the day that you're.
Skip. What we saying, Will? Oh, Pat.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, because it's that incremental. Nobody wants to think that, oh my God, this is going to take me 10 years. But that's step 1,000. It's time to do step 5 right now, and then step 6, and so on and so forth. I mean, it's I'm a sustainability geek too. So one of the things about environmental sustainability is that small changes over time equal big results, and that's that's really applicable when you're talking about art, and writing and the things that we do, creativity. So yeah, I mean, right, I agree completely, man.
Yeah. All right, well, I hope you hang with us, Anthony, but I know that you've been, you're 25 days in. If you got to take off, we'll say goodnight. But if you're going to hang, we'd love to have you. We do have one thing to talk about if you stay. But Cece, let's talk about
the other.
Yeah, let's talk about Mythball, which is in pre-launch right now.
Yeah, I could try sending you. I have a preview link if you want.
We can try it.
We can just give it a shot.
In the private chat. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're all for trying, and
let's just try it live and
trying and succeeding
happens.
or trying and failing. We do not mind failing in front of people. We are not embarrassed about stuff like that. Let's see what happens if I click this. If I go bye, we'll find out. Okay. I think that's okay.
You're still here, Kevin.
All right. I think I'm going to be able to show this. So give me 1 second. Where did Mythfall come from? Like, what was the first inkling of the story, and how did you get your team together as I pull up the page?
Sure. So a big theme for me is doing publishing as incorrectly as possible. So I am working on I know what you're supposed to do, and I'm not doing that. So it's one basically long story that I've worked on for most of my life. It's one of those things where Mythfall's not a thing that I wrote or write. It's the thing that I write, and so it has evolved a lot over the years. And it was around, I think, 2019 when it went from sort of a prose writing novel type of idea to a comic. And I started assembling a team. I tried out script writing, which was a big shift from prose, and I found that I really liked it. So I was like, let me see if I can make this work as a comic. I'm with the indie publisher ADM. I'm 1/4 of Addict Media. And so my co-creators at Addict Media were working on our first title, Incident Report, as a comic. And they got together, and my husband, who is one of the 4 members of Addict Media, was like, I think you should really try Mythfall as a comic. And so I gave it a shot. I really liked it. And so now this is going to be the 3rd issue that we kickstart as a whole, and the first issue of Mythfall. So we have Incident Report 1 and 2, and now Mythfall. And this originally started as so what I now understand to be maladaptive daydreaming. And after refinement, it's now a story where this is Ali Presswick and Aaron Angelini's art. So Ali Presswick is my co-creator, and the illustrator of the comic, and Aaron Angelini is on colors. It's really fantastic. I'm so excited with how it comes out. The letters are Haley Rose Lyon. So Allie was the first person that I reached out to build the team. And she's been, it really is like a true partnership, which is, was interesting because I worked on it alone for so long. And she brought so much as far as understanding sort of like the visual aspect of where things needed to go. Like I felt confident in my storytelling ability, even with the switch from medium to medium. But even though this was sort of like my first shot writing a script, like I didn't know what I was doing really with formatting, and paneling was kind of new. She was able to take my relatively inexperienced like script and then just understand as if she could read my mind, like what exactly how to bring it to the page. And then she also helped me navigate finding Aaron. Allie had like pretty clear ideas of what she wanted from the colors, and she had the knowledge to evaluate and find like the right colorist. And Allie had been a big fan of Aaron's work, and so we reached out to Aaron because we were like, you know, we were hoping to find somebody like Aaron, and then we reached out to Aaron, and they were available, and we were like, oh, this is so great. And so yeah, we're really,
we want to cast a Brad Pitt type.
Yeah, and then Brad Pitt's like, I'm free. Yeah. And so that's how we found our colorist. Yeah, and Haley Rose Lyon, we had worked with on on Incident Report. Words go in an order. And
this is why Will and I do it at Friday nights this late, because we figure that nobody can talk, and then no one will realize how bad we are at it. So this is all part of our master plan.
Yeah,
we
nice
do
cover.
appreciate it.
Yeah. So these are our covers. So the first cover is Allie's cover, and I thought it would be cool for my illustrator, or the illustrator on Mythfall, our co-creator, to have like her own color, because Allie also does colors, but she didn't do the colors in the book. So I thought it'd be cool to have her own cover, and then Aaron also has their own cover. But this cover is by Kaylin Smith, who kickstarted a book called Loot, and she has quite a few other credits as well.
Plume,
Yeah.
She's amazing. Great writer as well as a great artist.
Yeah. And then the Malkin cover is by Desiree Guyton, I think. I've only ever emailed her. I hope that's how her name is pronounced. Desiree Guyton. I
tell you what, you didn't make it easy on yourself. Kaylin Smith is really simple, but the Aaron Angiolini is the other one. Okay.
Yeah. So Desiree has a like a graphic design style background, but she also has like a really vibrant color palette when she does illustration. And I thought that was like a really cool style, and it was like very different than the other covers, which was something that I liked. And then Aaron's cover is just, she said, they said, do you want to do it more realistic style, or like more of a like cartoon style? And we went realistic, and I think it turned out great.
The ghost hands on that are absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I can see like a foil, some type of a foil or an embossment on that at some point, just to kind of have those three-dimensionally on the cover.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's really beautiful.
So when are you launching?
I believe I'm shooting for the 24th. I think we're gonna make it. I feel confident about saying it. We're approved by Kickstarter. I'm just waiting on some music for the video. That's like the last thing. They are so pretty. They're so pretty.
Yeah. Amanda C says in the chat, I can't get over how beautiful the pages are. I think the character work was really good, but the world, when you pull back and the volcanoes and the asteroid meteor or whatever hit, I was just like, man, this is blowing me away.
I have test prints, and one of the things I was excited to do with it is just to have like moments of just sort of like epic sleep. Shawnee says, "Yay! I was able to sign up to be notified for launch." Thank you, Shawnee.
Yes, if you're new to the show, we're gonna tell you the most important thing is the explain yourself bump, where Will and I take credit for every backer from this moment until the end of the campaign. Will, we get to take credit for every single backer.
Nice.
From number 1 to 390, 500, 1,000, whatever it is, we did it, Will.
We have arrived.
One more thing I want to mention. Aaron's cover. Mary Popo says Aaron's cover is Chef's Kiss, and their cover is really great. It was really exciting to get back. One more thing I want to mention about the Kickstarter is that the graphic designer who did the logo, Lori Tan, I reached out to her to do some WPA style travel posters for the 2 planets that we visit in issue 1, and I have a test print of that. And it'll be as basically a metal print, like a metal poster print, and then we're also going to do them as postcards that I hope you'll be able to mail if you wanted to, as if it was like a real postcard from a travel, like a vacation you went on.
No, that's
awesome.
super cool. I love those.
Yeah.
So I noticed you're in Fort Lauderdale, so I want to say thank you. I mean, South Florida has a pretty darn good indie comic scene, and I'm always happy to meet somebody that I haven't met on the scene. I don't want to say new on the scene because I don't know, but welcome. Watch out, there are some con men and shysters down here. It's Florida, you know this.
Yeah.
But then there's some
the
great
gators and the con men, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm excited to be here. Ironically, our plan was to attend our first. We probably should have met you earlier, but our plan was to attend our first convention in spring of 2020, and that didn't happen for obvious reasons.
Yep.
Yeah, some of those shows got there was a lot less fewer shows that month of that year, huh?
Yeah, that's how.
Weird.
Yeah, we had like booked a table at SuperCon and everything, and yeah, did not go to plan. Very much the Mike Cabbage's moment, from Avatar: The Last
Airbender. I don't know about this, but I'm going to read it because even if it is a lie, I love hearing it. Dr. Knight says that he talked to Tate of the amazing Eisner Award-winning comic shop Tate's Comics. And Tate, a while back, he mentioned Kevin Joseph as the king of indie comics in South Florida. It is BS. I don't believe it. Gosh darn it! Scream it! Say it to the mountains. Let's make it. We're gonna bring it into the universe. So,
I'm gonna tell people on the street, unprompted.
That guerrilla marketing at its best. Yeah. That's awesome. Okay,
just stop people like, hey, did you know? The king of indie comics in South Florida.
Yeah. Definitely check out the pre-launch page. Give it that click, and on the 24th, if it's live on the 24th, jump on, and we'll talk about it next week again. Once we know it's live, we'll remind people. But we have another book. Let's race over to.
Saw what he did there.
Max Axel and my eyes are going so bad, and the Wild Circuit.
You got it.
So this is, you said it's a 16-page one shot. How did this? I'm going to pull up the page, but how did this one come together for you guys?
So we've worked with Josh on 2 other books, New Luminaries 1 and 2, and that's our play on a superhero comic. And that was an idea that me and my 2 buddies from middle school, Alex and Mo, who are the other parts of Lucky 33, we've been tweaking and perfecting over years. That's one of those big ideas.
Cece, what did you call that? Maladaptive Daydream? Is that what you called it?
Yeah.
So,
I was like, noted.
somebody put in the chat what
good.
that actually means. I'm not even going to guess, but I loved how it sounded.
Yeah. So it's a symptom of ADHD, which it turns out that I have. That was part of my 2020 journey, was learning that I had this. And I learned about this symptom. Like I heard about it for the first time as an adult. And like maladaptive daydreaming is when you sort of like lost in your mind and you like create this, environment that you live in. And I was like, okay, this is my personality. Like that is everything.
Yeah.
That's my whole thing.
Isn't that just being a writer? I mean,
Yeah.
So that was definitely Alex, because New Luminaries was his seed of an idea, and he would call me whenever an idea hit him and be like, what about this? This? And over years, we put it together, ran into Josh, put out 2 issues, and
We like to call that what ifing.
yeah.
What ifing, yeah.
That's good.
And we did 2 issues, and we were kind of, chilling off that, detoxing. And Alex was talking to somebody on Twitter. They have a band. They were kind of interested in getting together, doing a comic. And that fell through. But on one of our calls we had, Josh was like, wouldn't it be great if someone paid us to do a comic? To do, like, make us do a comic? And all I heard was, let's do another comic. So that's all I got out of it. I called Alex the next day, Mo the next day, and was like, we have an opportunity. We've got to do this. I sat in a room for maybe like 3 hours, came up with 5 ideas, 5 little one-line ideas of something I'd want to see in a one-shot. Alex and Mo combined 3 of them into one. And
nice.
it was really a from scratch. We wanted to do racing. We kind of landed on racing because I want to do a Hydro Thunder comic. Josh had just done this awesome commission for F-Zero for this person. Josh, do you want to talk about the F-Zero commission?
Say, it was kind of wild how like a lot of ideas came together at the same time, because we do it every time. I was just coming off of there's the Nintendo game F-Zero with Captain Falcon, and there's a Twitch player that or a Twitch streamer that is the world record holder for like the fastest play of that game, and he commissioned me to do a poster for him to like commemorate. And so I've been doing a lot of high speed, F-Zero sci-fi racing stuff. And when they were like, maybe we could do a racing thing, it was just like the 2 ideas merged like so well. And like, I think it was like within a month we had like character designs and car designs down, and like just pulling off of the craziest thing. And they had these 2 announcers in like the rough scripts that they sent me. And it was like just these 2 guys, Roger and Richard, talking. And when we were on a like a call talking about the project, I just started doodling these 2 guys, and with a little bee dude who, like, I'm trying to remember, who did we say it was?
George
like,
Carlin. It's
George
Carlin in a bee costume.
Yeah, which is really off the wall. And then this dude who looks like Grimace, but he's actually like like a flubber, like gelatin dude with a cowboy hat. And I just was doodling, and I was like, I think these are our announcers. And it was like that really set the tone for just like the wackiness, the wacky races inspiration. Right. Like, let nothing like be let nothing be like untouched. Like, let's go crazy. Let's like we have like a mysterious Racer X inspired character similar to like Speed Racer, and like we have Lizard Shark, who is just like this weird amalgamation of like what was the inspiration for that one, Corey?
The Street Sharks, right? Like
Street Sharks. Yes.
Yeah.
So it was just like anything you can think of from like the 80s and 90s, racing and cartoons. Like, I mean, honestly, 60s to 90s, and then that flavor just like exploded, and that's the comic.
Go back to the campaign. Yeah. Can we play videos on here, or?
We don't do the videos because this comes out as a podcast, and what ends up happening with the video is the podcast listeners get 42 seconds of pop. So we don't do the videos, but definitely we're going to tell everybody to go to the campaign, watch the video. I'm going to assume it's super dope if you want people to watch it.
The video is a 1-minute animation that Josh animated.
Nice. Okay.
Please just talk to people through the animation.
There's an anime movie out there called Redline, and I had seen it a few years ago, and it's basically like that same Speed Racer, but like through the lens of like Dragon Ball Z, essentially, where it's just like crazy high octane action, but like with race cars. And so I just literally like, I've been getting more into like 2D animation and really exploring that. And so I was like, why don't I just kind of throw together, like I literally took stills from the comic and from concept art and use that in the animation. And it really came together, and it was a lot of fun.
Nice.
No, that's
very
nice.
Cool.
I will definitely check it out after. What is the age range of this book? I could take a guess, but I wouldn't want to be wrong.
We always want to try and do all ages, 100%. Cool. There's definitely, humor and a snappiness and energy that is all ages. It's not super childish, but it's something a kid could just flip through, look at the pictures, and be entertained 100%.
Okay, cool.
See that Kitty McKitterson said Redline is the best, so we have another cat on the pod today.
Serendipity, man. Serendipity.
Redline is so good.
And so this is your 16-page. This is your one shot. It sounds like you might have had a little fun making it. Is there any chance of not necessarily a continuation, but can we see other races in this world possibly in the future?
So long-term plans, we would love for characters from Max Axel to be included in our new Luminaries universe. So there's definitely plans to use them again, but we were really excited to do a one-shot. I think it was one of those things going back to, what we were talking about before about incrementally improving. And we had this book that was this long-form story, and we just wanted to tackle one-shot. It was just something exciting about that limitation. Yeah. Josh made us all jealous. Him and his extremely close friend, Sam, had just released Mountain Grove, which is this awesome Zelda Studio Ghibli one-shot. And it drove me crazy. I was like, I want that.
Well, yeah, that was definitely something. Like the idea of a one-shot was like coming off of like we said, like the new Luminaries is like a superhero comic, and superhero comics in general tend to have this like larger story arc approach, and like, so the appeal of just doing a one-shot where it's like, this is it. Like it's a 30-minute TV show episode and that's it, and there's nothing else. Like that appeal is really strong when you're so tired from working on that big thing and you just want like some success. And that really, I don't know, that those kinds of projects really help with that, like you said, incrementally moving forward.
I think when you put yourself in you give yourself restrictions, like it can put you in a creative space.
Yep.
And also if you're not too worried about what the characters have to do 3 issues from now, you can do anything. And that's kind of fun in that way, because if you're doing a long form series and you kill off a character and find out that character is super popular, oh crap.
Resurrection.
Well, yeah, it is comics. But a one shot, you can kill everybody.
I'm so jealous. I can never do a one shot.
Dark, yeah.
I can never do it, man. I respect you.
Thanks, man. Because the interesting challenge was trying to find everyone their moment. Like we have all these fun, cool characters in 16 pages. Like, going through the script, you're like, oh, this is actually, we're almost done. It was funny writing 8 pages and being like, oh man, we're almost there. Yeah. So making sure everyone had their moment was something I'm really happy that it played out, because I think we did it. You guys can tell us if you read it, if we did it or not.
Well, we're certainly going to read it. I'm back in it right after I watch the video right after the show. Because I'm not leaving that page without watching that video. All the way through, baby.
60 seconds. That's all I ask.
All right. So we've gone through each show. I have been drinking. I'm still on my no liquor for 2023 so far. I was at Whole Foods and we saw Unwhiskey. And so I thought I'd give myself, something to celebrate.
Little placebo.
Joining the Geek Collective. If you want to know what Unwhiskey tastes like, the most unlike whiskey any drink I've ever had in my entire life.
It could not be more unwhiskey.
It could not be more unwhiskey, but it was $17. And guess what? I am finishing this because $17 for this little bottle. But hey, you know what? It's worth it. It doesn't taste necessarily bad. It just doesn't taste anything like whiskey. And that is, So
the mistake is comparing it to
drink
whiskey.
you would say it
Otherwise,
tastes
it'd be
like.
great. Yeah.
Yeah.
God,
Like peach Snapple? Like what?
Right when he takes a drink.
I thought you said pea Snapple. I'm realizing now you didn't say that. I don't know. Just not like it's like they took oh man, I don't know. They just
I'm on
they
the
just
edge
put
of
a little
my seat.
cayenne pepper in something to try to say it's hot like whiskey. I don't know.
Okay. A little spicy. Is it bitter? Not sweet?
It's not sweet. It's not
Not
sweet.
sweet. Yeah.
It's not terrible. It's just
You couldn't
tastes like
find
whiskey.
anything else to drink.
Colored water.
That's what I'm sitting here like, you paid money.
Water, Kevin. Water.
Hey, listen, I got to put it in my Cobra Kai shot glass, so I feel like I'm drinking and I feel happy. One thing that came up on Twitter, and Anthony, I know he wants to get into this before we get out. We're gonna do this real quick. He put up, I want to hear your hot takes to get you, the Flynn Rider, the swords in the face, and John Westoff. I'm putting it on him. I said he might be right. He put, how did he put it?
He said writers get too much credit
In comics. And
I don't know if he even said that.
And I wrote, it was something like that. It was close enough.
It's close enough. Yeah.
And I wrote back, F you, John, stupid. And also it's probably true. And so Anthony asked me to explain myself, and this is explain yourself. So here's my thing. I believe writers in comics tend to get too much credit because there's one artist on this panel and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 writers. 5 out of 6 of us are writers.
Mm-hmm.
We tend to be the mouthpieces. We tend to be the marketers. And so what tends to happen is you hear Kevin Joseph's tart, you hear Will Allred's crossover division. I would rather hear Kevin Joseph and Ludovic Salay's tart, because I know in my bones, my book doesn't exist without Ludo. And in fact, I know that most of the elements that make Tart special and cool, Ludo was already doing before we met. I just found a story within his toolbox. So that's what I mean. I think we get too much credit because I think sometimes people forget how extraordinarily important the artist is to making comics. I don't feel saying that diminishes the writer in any way at all. I think the writer's super important. I just think that, speaking of Neil Gaiman's Sandman, well, sure, he wrote all 75 issues and artist drew 6. But when I think about the kindly ones, that arc is so unique to anything else I've ever read in my entire life, because they had this crazy art on it that is extraordinary. And I just think that I don't want it to be like movies where the screenwriter is a piece of dog crap.
Yeah.
I don't want that. I just don't want the artist to ever be forgotten in what is basically a visual medium. That's all.
It is a visual medium.
Yeah.
Here's my retort. You, Kevin, you are so nice.
Explain yourself, Anthony.
You are so nice. You just admitted you were wrong.
You know, it's the unwind.
Finish
The unwind got to my head.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. you might. Yeah, it's by saying the right. I mean, what I said was why is it the writer gets too much credit instance? Why isn't the artist deserve more credit, or teams can't get more credit? And it kind of speaks to what I was talking about earlier about the loser mentality.
I am a loser, but you don't have to bring it up on
no,
my show.
that's not.
I am the king of South Florida indie comics, Anthony.
Just because you're drinking cold whiskey does not make you loser. No. And it's just like I said, it's a framing of things. I agree with you. I think the artist should get credit. Never in my life I'm going to say I ever get too much credit. It's not happening. The words are not leaving my mouth, you know. So I think it's just the framing of the argument. If you think artists should deserve equal credit, then say that. You know, don't say the artist, the writer's getting too much credit, man. In indie comics, like because I was like, what are you referring to specifically? You're talking about like Garth Ennis, you know, like boys. You talking about me? And you guys? No, not at all, man. No.
So as I stated, and we can agree to disagree on it. I still think it's tomato.
We agree.
Say
we agree.
We get too much credit, or they need to get more. I think we're saying the same darn thing. We're just using different words. I don't actually think it's diminishing writers at all, and I don't think you can go back and listen to the show. I'll never diminish any writer that isn't named Kevin Joseph.
Absolutely.
Because he thinks he's the king of South Florida indie comics. He needs to be taken down a peg.
I can't believe you'd say that about the king of South Florida.
No,
indie
that's
comics.
just a rumor I heard. You said the opposite. It's just someone came up to me.
Do you
Somebody
think
stopped me on the street and said, Kevin is
or grabbed me.
Do you think this is a glass half full, half empty scenario where ultimately it's the same volume of liquid, but it's being presented in two different ways? Like that's why I would say that's basically my argument. It's the perception.
I would say that I don't see that perception in this particular argument. I don't see glass half full, glass half empty. I think it's tomato. I really do. But I don't care because it's friggin' nice. John Westhoff's stupid hot take, not mine. So nice, you know what? Take it up with him. Bring it to his show, Anthony.
Shouts out to John, man. I know. No smoke with John, man.
No. I loved having the conversation, and I'd rather have the conversation where we can talk than Twitter anyway. But I think let's just all get more readers so that everybody knows Anthony's name and DNS's initials, because I don't even know his real name, but man, that guy can draw.
I know his real name. No, you know, Kevin, we I don't know if we disagree a lot, but I feel like we're always cordial. You know, I need you nice guys in my corner because I get a lot of heat, and I need you guys to be like, no, that guy's all right. Like, please.
I got no problem, man.
You know, it's funny because I feel like there's this pendulum that swings back and forth, you know, where, you know, writers get too much credit, artists get too much credit, right? And it's comics is a collaborative medium. Mm-hmm. I, as a writer, have to have an artist. Artists, whether they want to admit it or not, they need a writer. Even if that writer's them, they still have to have a writer. So comics take an artist and a writer.
Yeah, comics aren't paintings. It's sequential.
There you go.
There has to be a sequence of art, or it's not comics, and that's where the writing comes to. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Let me say real quick, like the people told me the argument that it's a visual medium is kind of not. It kind of shows that people don't understand because, like, yes, it's a visual medium, right? But if I have a metaphor, the pen from Watchmen, right? If I just show you that you don't understand the metaphor, that makes sense in the framework of the narrative, which is constructed by the writer. That is visual storytelling. So even saying it's a visual medium kind of misunderstands what that means. Not that you said it. I know you know.
Yeah.
Kevin,
Shout
but-
out to Mo.
Mo Deep says facts. Both parts are equally needed.
Yeah.
1/4 of Lucky 33.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think that's an interesting way to put it. I do know that when I sit down to write a short story and when I sit down to write a comic script, I'm using a slightly different part of my very minuscule brain.
Well,
You
you're
still
using
need
different
to think-
tool sets
yeah.
too.
You still need beginning, middle, and end, but it's just you're kind of thinking about, well, Cece, you said that you started this out as a novel and then you went into the script writing. Did you find that you could just kind of go back to your maladaptive daydreams and get it out, or did you have to think about it differently?
It was a really interesting experience, actually, because I worked on. I started the little tiny ideas that eventually grew and became Mythfall. I basically started that at around age 12, and then I worked on it mostly alone for like 20 years, and then then I found Allie, and I kind of relinquished control in a way, and I wanted to, like, you'd think with all that time I would have like a lot of like demands maybe about like what I wanted things to look like, and like but it's I tried to keep it more minimal because I wanted to give her the freedom to put her own stamp on it, and she is like a true co-creator with me. So even though I'm generating the story that is kind of directing where we're going to go, I'm not alone in the car.
Right.
Yeah, and so like when we went through character designs and things like that, I gave her backstories and like any sort of like plot relevant information, like or world building relevant information that affected the way the characters look. And if she came back to me and she's like, hey, I added like these details to the character, I'm like, I want to go with that. I want to adapt to what she's bringing me, so that it's like a back and forth, not just sort of like me giving her directions on what to do. So like one small example is that like I have a lot of like anime influences. So a lot of what I imagine for characters is a lot of like straight hair. But Allie likes to draw curly hair. So I'm like, great, where can we add curly hair? Like, let's add curly hair all over the place. Like, because that is, like part of, because this is not only my story anymore. It's now our story together, and we're building it together. She also, like, when I think about world building for the novel, not all the world building was necessarily visual. So like I knew, like economic systems and like this is the religion but like just like exactly how stuff looked wasn't always necessarily defined, because in prose you're not always going to see every little detail if it's not directly relevant to the plot. But in a comic, if you enter a room, you see the whole room, or at least the part of the room you can see in the frame. And so there's all these little details that Allie has added into panels, into the background. And then we work together to define like the clothing styles for each of the cultures. Like I told her, like, this is like what this one's about. And she's like, okay, they do this like repeating pattern of little moons because of this thing you told me about, like they follow the eclipses. Awesome. Yeah. And so like I bring her like, okay, like here's the stuff I want. And she's like, cool, this is how it looks. And it's, yeah, to say that like, it's just me really leaves out an incredible contribution that she's providing. Whereas like in prose, I'm actually responsible for the visuals and the story, because the only visuals that exist are the ones that I write. Whereas I'm really collaborating with her, almost like being in a band where, and I think that it's almost like we have a tendency to kind of flatten, like, I'm not referring to myself here necessarily, but just like when you look at high profile achievements, like flattening quote unquote genius down to like one person. And it's almost always a group effort, but it's hard to hold all that in your mind at once. You want to like, no, it was this guy, he did it. And you can see it even with like people trying to figure out like who was the best Beatle or like who's the best member of a band. And that's sort of how I feel about comics, where it's like, maybe I'm writing the lyrics, but without the sweet guitar licks that Allie's providing, we don't have like our killer single.
Well, that is such a great point about the flattening it down to one person. That is absolutely brilliant. Also, is there visual storytelling in novels? I feel like yes.
Not well. If you want some novels, you really don't know how anything looks. When some writers get really into describing what you see, but the only stuff that you can see in a novel is what the author did. But it's not visual storytelling the way a comic is at all. It's
I was making a point, but
yeah. So okay, I have a question for the writers. Sorry, Josh, I'm gonna leave you out. You're a wonderful
We'll bring
artist.
you back in a second, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just gonna mute him in case he tries to be part of this.
All that talk about writers getting too much credit. We just put
put those artists in their place.
Because he hasn't written a dang thing.
I'm curious about. So Kevin and I have actually collaborated on a script, so I have a good sense of how Kevin writes, and I think he has a pretty good sense of how. Yeah, exactly. You both come at this from a script writing standpoint, which is totally different from where I come to it. So I'm really interested in the mechanics of your scripting. I mean, are you stripped down, bare bones descriptions? Is it a Neil Gaiman letter to your artist, or is it an Alan Moore? Here's 4 pages to describe this panel.
Definitely not the Alan Moore thing.
Well, I think the theme is CC does publishing wrong. So my technique is like basically just rewriting it about a dozen times.
As long as you know when to stop, that's okay.
Yeah. I start with dialogue. And one of the things that I love the most about Allie's art is she's really expressive. Like her facial expressions are really, I don't know what to say other than expressive, which is what I just said. I'm a writer. I do the words. But yeah, her characters are so expressive. And I start with the dialogue, and that is one of the things that is very helpful to her, is to have the dialogue and then to base the expressions around the dialogue. So that's the way that we work together. And then I try not to be a complete hack and include some panel descriptions.
How do you do it? How do you do it, Anthony? Do you do full script?
I write a screenplay.
Oh, okay.
And then I do the panel breakdown. And then when I know what I want, like when I brought up it turns into a sketch page, I'll add the details. Still not Alan Moore-esque, but I'll add the details. And then I really try to lean on references, like reference images.
Gotcha. Cool. Well, that's cool.
How did the race come together? Because it sounds like a huge team of people sitting around just having a blast.
So let's do that.
You can come back in, Josh. Now we'll allow you.
I mean, if that's fine.
By the way, I did see a consensus in the comments that the video is very cool. So now I'm curious.
Awesome. No, it's funny because this conversation, like I'm part of a 3 to 4 person writing team where like 2 or 3 of us do the writing, 1 or 2 of us do the editing on any one scene, page, line, whatever it is. But, this is only my 3rd comic. This is another thing we picked up during the pandemic. It's something we've wanted to do for over 10 years, 15 years, but only finally got to because we got an artist. So Josh has actually raised us. You know, the first couple scripts we gave him were, you know, easily 80 pages of art. And he was like, hey guys, yeah, you gotta help me out over here. So we learned editing. Like the first couple of scripts we passed him were definitely not panel broken down. He was like, hey, how about
It
you
was
break those
prose,
down?
essentially.
Yes.
Prose with a little bit of screenplay attitude. But like it really like it was tough. Like we actually had to talk about it. It was like, can you guys please try paneling these out for me? Because for the first book we did, I did it myself, and I can do it and it's fine, but it was like, it's not my vision. I want you guys to try to tackle it. Yeah. And I was like, why don't you guys handle that? And we'll see what happens.
And then the second time he was like, you could do it more descriptively. Like so now we're writing with medium shot, close shot, you know, as descriptive as possible. And then so he can riff. So he can worry about like, oh, actually, you guys said this, but what if I spun it this way? And it's always good. Like always when we meet him as much as we can, it's like, oh, I see what you were trying to do, but wouldn't it be fun if we did this? Like allowing him the most room to not worry about the heavy lifting has been really rewarding.
That's really cool. I mean, that's speaking from my experience. Yeah,
Sorry.
Josh taught them to
Shawnee
learn
says-
by doing.
Pretty much.
One of the things that my first comic, I called the shots and I laid out the panel pages and I was like, whoa, I finally learned that no, I shouldn't be doing that. So I pulled back and I'm really, I mean, would you say, Kevin, that it's pretty sparse? I mean, you know, we're talking almost Hemingway-esque, you know, as far as
Yeah, I think I'm more long-winded in my description than you are. I'm definitely that Neil Gaiman letter to the artist, kind of entertain the artist while they're reading the script so that they're hopefully having fun and excited to get to the next page. So yeah, I'm a little bit more like, you know, but I'm also more like, I think maybe it could be like this, but it could also be like this or this.
Yeah.
Unless you have a better idea, you know. So I think my descriptions are probably twice as long as yours. But you know,
we also have a crazy luxury of talking once a week. So anything not covered in the script,
in the same
like, hey,
language.
Yeah,
by the way.
Yeah.
My artist is French, and you've got a French artist, an Italian artist, South American.
We're even in the same time zone.
Wow.
We're not close, but we're in the same time zone.
Helps.
Yeah, it does help. Although
I gotta go to bed. I'm sorry.
You
Thanks
told
for
us
hanging
how.
in there.
No worries. You have a great night. It was good to talk to
You guys,
Thanks for hanging.
projects look great.
Now that you're gone, we're gonna do nothing but shit on writers the rest of the night.
I know that's what you want to do. I know it.
All right, Josh, it's all
You're
you.
gonna have to listen to the podcast to find out.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. Mike.
Good night.
No, I've got Shawnee did put up one question earlier. She says that she agrees that successful comics require both parts. But to play devil's advocate, Kevin, what about Morte? So I wrote a one-shot that SourcePoint Press put out called Morte, which is a day in the life of the last man on Earth, and it has one single word in it. I didn't write that word.
Plot twist.
I wrote a completely silent comic because I was to the 8th page of the story as I was writing it out and putting out the beats, and the character hadn't said anything, and there's a reason he didn't say anything, because he's the last man on Earth. Who is he going to say anything to? And I thought, okay, cool. I'm a third of the way through this story. Let's see if I have the chops to write a completely silent comic. So I got to the 24 pages, and I reached out to David Bishop, who does this amazingly beautiful, I call it my very favorite Hulk story ever, called Of Stone. It does not have a Hulk. It's not a Hulk comic. He's a troll, and it's just this gorgeous, beautiful piece that David writes and illustrates. And I sent it to him, and he liked the script and he wanted to illustrate it. Well, about halfway to 2/3 of the way through the story, there was a super important moment that just had to hit. It had to be for this piece to work. That moment had to hit, and I gave David like 4 options of what it could be, and he wrote back, "I think he should talk." And I was like, well, we're the only marketing for this insane story is that it's silent. And then I thought about it and I'm like, yeah.
I mean, when the
Yeah.
artist tells you there should be a line.
That's the thing. I just realized he's right. That is that's the thing that makes this moment that big.
Mhm.
You know, you're 18 pages in a 24-page comic. You might not have even realized it's silent until he speaks. So I said, I think you're right. And he goes, I know what he needs to say.
Dang.
I wrote a comic that has 1 word in it. I didn't decide to have the word in it, and the artist wrote it. So
and that's why you're the king of
that
South
is-
Florida indie comics.
And I wish Anthony were still on. I wrote that comic.
Yes,
I
you
wrote
did.
it. I wrote the shit out of that comic. Just because there isn't dialogue or narration, I don't. And I laugh when people say I didn't do anything. I'm like, yeah, I didn't. It's all David. You know, like I go with the joke. But you know, like
The artist wrote 1 word.
he.
It's just the 1 word that
Yeah.
made it into the book.
That's it. That's it. It just happened that he got past the editor and I didn't. But it huge collaboration because you know that it doesn't work without the artist absolutely nailing what I hope to achieve with the piece. Which, by the way, I'm going to brag, and as king of South Florida indie comics, I can do so. I did let Mark Wade read it, and the next day he said it's a solid piece.
Nice.
Nice.
If that's what you hear from Mark Wade,
and then he put the crown on you.
yeah.
That was
You
a
know,
plug.
I've talked a lot about death today, but when I have a gravestone and it says it was a solid piece, Mark Wade, you guys know why.
Oh.
So let's do another round of 30-second pitches. I've kept you guys up long enough. I'm going to do it for Anthony. Intrusive thoughts are about an orphan who has sleep paralysis, and one night it seems that the demon that he sees bites someone around him. So are his thoughts coming to life? Is this something existential in the kid's brain? I don't know because I haven't finished it, but it certainly was a very cool first 6 to 8 pages that I read. Like I said earlier, DNS is one of my favorite artists, especially in the horror genre. So check out Intrusive Thoughts. One thing I will say, we missed that guy. Charlie Stickney was going to try to make it tonight, but something came up that he just couldn't make it. He reached out. I want to tell everybody, Galarian, Short and Deadly. It's a hardcover collection, is out. Charlie is just about the best guy in comics. If there is a king of indie comics, it might be Charlie Stickney.
But not in South Florida.
Not in South Florida, no. But check it out. White Ash is one of my favorite indie comics out there, and Galarian is the prelude to White Ash, and it's certainly. He said White Ash is PG-13 characters in an R-rated world, and Galarian is his hard R-rated character in that world. So you get a little bit more blood and a little bit more other things of more adult natures. But because Charlie's such a good writer, it never feels exploitative. So check out Galarian. And Mythfall is in pre-launch. Let's remind everybody what Mythfall is.
Mythfall is a fantasy epic in space. It follows alien bureaucrat Malcolm Terasmus as he tries to prevent war from breaking out on the planet that he's responsible for, but he doesn't know that his foe is from an ancient age of magic.
Beautiful. All right, and our 16-page one-shot let's talk about Max Axel and the Wild Circuit one last time.
Josh, do it.
Yeah, I'll take this one. So Max Axel and the Wild Circuit, like you said, 16-page one-shot, high octane energy of an all ages comic that follows not only Max Axel but a bunch of different racers through what is literally the Wild Circuit, through deserts and underwater and through forests, and it's narrated by Roger and Richard, a couple of wacky narrators, and it's just full of wild antics, and from beginning to end, it's just a lot of fun.
Awesome. All right. Will and I do like to joke that this is where it goes off the rails. It's going to really go off the rails because we no longer have the banners from old shows to help us.
That's true, but I've got a list for right here.
Let's. I'm going to let Will take it over then. What is still live?
Well, we have Rancidville and Odious End. John Eddingfield II is a good friend, and he's got his third and final issue of Rancidville, where you have an orphan moves to a town and befriends some other teens, and together they solve a mystery that involves murder, I believe. And
murder in a dirty town councilman.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I read issue 1, and I've been waiting for the whole thing to get back into it, which is if you hear John is doing a campaign, then you know that Ryan Kroboth is also doing a campaign. Sunmaker is also finishing up. That's a frozen cold world. There's a group of kind of little blue elvish, maybe evil guys. I don't know if they're good, bad, or indifferent, but they're certainly the antagonists of the first issue. Just like Rancidville, I read issue 1, and I was like, there's only 3 issues. I'm waiting. Ryan is the artist of this. It's really cool artwork. Basically, the Sunmaker is a group of people that can bring heat and fire to this world of cold. And the protagonist has to decide whether he should actually do that when he gets into that adventure. And both great guys, great comics. Check those out.
And Ryan is also the colorist for the series crossover division, which I am very much invested in.
after we finish this, you might want to show some metal covers once we finish this. Yeah. Well, I don't know about your page, but I see Blazing Blade of Frankenstein, Clay Adams and Kyle Roberts. It is 2 public domain characters. I think you've heard of Frankenstein. If you haven't, I mean, open your eyes, people. But the Blazing World, it predates it by about 300 years. Apparently, this was speculative fiction from like the 1600s of a portal in near the North Pole. And Clay just decided, let's throw Frankenstein into that portal and see what happens. And Kyle Roberts is just a great artist and definitely worth checking out.
Absolutely. We have... by totally Kevin Joseph, by Matt Sorcier, The Misadventures of Buddy and Friend. Matt is a great friend of the show, and she's actually a unicorn. She is the writer, the artist, the colorist, the letterer. I think she prints them in her own room, and
she actually draws every issue individually.
She hand delivers them.
Hand delivers them, exactly. But Matta is awesome. It's a series that is very much different from her Sacrimony series. I think the tagline for this is it's as if a D&D campaign is ongoing and every character always rolls a 1.
Yeah.
So
just super fun and definitely like high school and up type humor. You know, it has kind of Steven Universe looking art that she decided to do, but she wanted to definitely get into some darker stuff. So if you're ordering for the kids, I would go with Max Axel. If you want to hold on to one for 5 to 10 years from now, then get Buddy.
Yeah. All right, and then we have the Crime Busters. Number 5, you can get 1 through 5. It's supernatural mystery adventure. It's got some really cool stuff going on with some. I think he brought in like one Golden Age character, and it's got kind of, you can see the Archie influence, like in the Dan DeCarlo designs. But it's
like Nancy Drew too influence.
Mhm.
Yeah, really cool. And this is the first issue that he didn't draw himself. He wrote and drew the first 4 issues, and he finally decided that he needed this series to end before 2080, and so he got in an artist. Super cool variant covers too.
Yes.
If you check out the page, because he's got 2 different versions of variants. Awakening, which is a Star Trek inspired sci-fi comic. It's a one-shot. Just check out the page. That's really all you need to know about it. It's a one-shot. It's kind of, wouldn't say it's a fan film of Star Trek, because I wouldn't want him to get sued, but look at the page and choose for yourself. But I'd say if you enjoy Star Trek, check out that campaign.
Yeah. And then we have Sheldor, the Defender. Obviously, I like dogs. That's our Basset Hound, Otis.
This might be my cue, actually. I have a couple of dogs sitting around here.
Dogs are allowed on the show just like cats.
Absolutely, yeah.
Dogs and cats can live together on this show.
Yeah. Anyway, Sheldor is about a dog that is training the new puppy in the house. About defending their people from the teddy bear that was left out in the back, or the mailman, and things like that. It's a really fun looking little book, and one of the rewards, I think it's out. I think they sold out of all the rewards. You could have your dog drawn in, and you would get to approve the dialogue of your dog. It was a really cool reward level.
Oh, that is really cool. Yeah.
And who is this? Who is this?
This is Luke. His sister Leica is around here somewhere.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So proper, so nice.
Just like
Yeah, I can boop it for you, Shawnee.
Yeah.
So here's a tip of the trade before we finish this out. I did learn this week. I don't know how I accidentally linked my Instagram to Tart's Facebook page, but I like it because I just use Instagram for art stuff, so it worked fine. And I don't really do much on Instagram, so it's fine. But I put up our new puppy that we got last week on Instagram, and I didn't realize till like 3 days later it was going to the Facebook page.
That's a feature, actually.
Yeah. It is now, my page got 800% more views in the week since I started putting my puppy on Instagram. So I think I'm gonna ride that. And,
ride that wave.
And, there's gonna be beautiful Ludo art. Crazy.
Nice.
So
yeah, I did a little Twitch streaming for a while during the Panini, and these guys are, I think, more popular than me.
wait, that's not a bad thing.
Kevin, we've got a few other campaigns to mention. Our buddy Mick Byers, who's actually out at, I believe, Con Nuga with Clay and Rob, Clay Adams and Rob Moltari this weekend. He just launched Queen of Mars #3, which is his kind of adaptation of the public domain stuff that's still public domain of the John Carter of Mars books. So definitely check that one out. And then somebody, again, who is maybe, the letterer on Crossover Division, also a great writer and designer, is publishing In the Land of the Dragon, #2. That's from Last Ember Press. It really is a nice looking book.
Yeah.
And then
44 Hours, Becca Boo and the Bimbo Ghost, our buddy that does, I blanked on the horror he does. Garth Mathams does my favorite horror that I can't
Witch Creek
Road. This is certainly a little more, her name's Becca Boo and the Bimbo. So more adult in the art, and the covers are a little more risque than what he usually does, but Garth always brings a story to the table, so I'm not too worried about it just being those things. But hey, it's Kickstarter, and that's a good way to sell more comics, and I'm not going to tell anybody not to make money.
Yep. Last one, because it's a day that ends in Y. our friends Kat Calamia and Phil Falco have a Kickstarter running. I don't know how they do it, but they do, and they do it well. They've got Hairology, a celebration of hair.
Yeah,
Which is. Go ahead.
I thought I was cool when I got Mark Waid to read my comic. They got Gail Simone to write a foreword.
Yeah.
What?
Yes. Like, I mean, that is, talk about royalty. That is royalty. So, yeah, it's gonna be a really cool anthology, and we're super psyched to see it. There's amazing stuff out there. Ron Randall has another Trucker
exactly.
hardcover coming out. Brian Hawkins just did American.
In the American Kingdom number 3 or 2 or 3.
Yeah.
3?
Our buddy Pat Shan Cerulean Dreams just ended successfully. John Westhoff, Drumsticks. There's so much on Kickstarter right now. Give all this stuff a look. There's great books, and everybody that was in the chat, man, we appreciate.
Yeah. Thanks
you
for
coming in and making the show better with your questions and comments. And we really appreciate it. This is our first show kind of in the Geek Collective water. I liked it. Joey keeps the water nice and warm. Oh, well. Yeah.
Oh, is that your metal cover?
Yeah.
Oh, the metal one is right
yeah,
here.
I would like to see a metal cover in action. Okay. How does the comic open? I have so many questions about this. So
well, you actually have to open it. It does.
Yeah.
Is
the cover metal? What?
So
basically, what happens?
The inside cover. The metal cover is glued on the front, so it's not a complete wraparound.
Mm-hmm.
So this is just normal stuff on the back here, and then here's the cover. And like I was telling everybody else, the first thing my wife said is somebody's going to poke their eye out with that. Whatever. But this,
as long as they have the other eye to read it, right?
That's right. Yeah. This amazing cover is by Mog Park. So it's one of the variants that we had for Crossover Division 4, which came in 2 days ago. I don't know, but there it is.
So at least the answer to how does the spine not break from the weight, I'm going to say, is these books are almost never taken out of the bag and board that they are sent with. Almost everybody buys the regular cover and then the metal, and they read the regular cover is in actuality how the books go. And you know what? As the creator, I don't want your book to be ruined. But if you do ruin it and you would like to buy a second one, I will sell it to you.
Absolutely.
Go for it.
But actually, that's my first metal cover, so I'm really pleased with how it turned out. And
cool.
Comic Impressions has been my printer for all 4 issues of Crossover Division, so a shout out to them for always doing some really spectacular work for me.
They're great.
And I think that's about it. Thanks for showing up, everyone.
Yeah, it was a fabulous talk tonight. Thank you guys that are still here, and thank you, Anthony, for coming. And you know what? He's at the end of his 25 days, and Cece, you're a week out from starting your 25 days. So this is your warm up. So
and we got 11 days 80%. Left. So
yeah, you guys are right in the middle.
You got 11 days left. You're funded, but there's nothing wrong with adding to that total and moving forward. And like, I'm about to hit end broadcast, and we're going to talk for 2 or 3 minutes, and then I'm going to watch video. And I recommend everybody who's listened to the podcast, if you hear it in this next 11 days, Max Axel and the Wild Circuit, watch that video. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.